Um, yeah, so when he presented the opportunity of him coming on as a volunteer tutor, and some of the work that he had already begun, we were at a place in the city of Newark where only 19% of our kids were on grade level for reading. And then 89% of the eighth graders weren't even proficient in math. And when you think about those things, it presents a disadvantage that has a lifetime effect. If you cannot read by the third grade, statistics show that you will be underemployed for the rest of your life, all the way through. So the fact that he wanted to join us and do this tutoring program was already a blessing in disguise because we got an opportunity to accomplish two things. We got to continue our mission in providing our members with opportunities in order for them to achieve success in their lives. I'm the product of that success. So of course I'm for everything about it. But also we got an opportunity to pilot something that was different. Coming off of COVID, we know that school was all virtual and it had its ups and downs and challenges. But really what this opportunity allowed us to do is give our kids consistency. For 6 weeks at a time, we would take 4 to 5 kids and we would work with them with their homework. We're talking about kids who started off saying that I'm not interested or why do I have to sign up, to being able to not only look forward to it every week, but also when we have Andre and his family visit, they're saying hi and they're excited to see when we can start this program again. So you can go to the next slide. So the truths about why we need tutoring, the numbers dictate that, especially in the city of like Newark. Again, we're talking about 1 out of every 3 kids not being able, 2 out of every 3 kids not being on reading level. We're talking about 93% of fifth graders not on grade level for science. So the need is there. So this works. I'm actually gonna look at mine because it's a little janky. So the numbers work because it's providing personalized support. Again, we are doing something really small, but our organization also has other partnerships that provide tutoring services. So we're able to provide tutoring to a good amount of our population of kids. I would say within the last year, we provided tutoring opportunities to students who need it most at a rate of about 25 to 30% of our kids who needed it. This consistent reinforcement. Because we're not the school space, it provides us a unique challenge of one, we're not a school. So we don't have to be as rigid, but two, we can get so much more creative than the challenges that persist in the school systems. Again, it's not often that you have 5 high school students that want to teach third and fourth graders math and reading. But when we have those relationships, we enhance it. Another thing is that it's a safe and supportive environment. Again, because we've tried it with adults and it's been successful. But I think the aspect of what myself and Anjay have been able to do is that they're seeing not adults, but they're seeing their own peers. So the success of having kids who are maybe 2 to 3 years older than you tutor you and mentor you at the same time and help you and make you look forward and have a closer. One of the things that when I grew up in certain rooms when I was advocating for educational equity, the issue that I had was that there weren't enough people that were young enough in age to be decision makers. So when you have that dynamic where you have young folks teaching young folks, it cultivates an environment where they're picking the next member up, in our case, because we have members. Another thing that we've seen consistency is that when they start tutoring and see it through, that there is a real improvement on it. We did a virtual tutoring program 2 years ago in 2023, in which 90% of all of our kids that participated in it moved up a grade level when it came to reading. We have a hyper focus on literacy here at the Boys and Girls Club. But again, when we have small pockets where we can have tutoring and volunteers, we bring those in. And then we bridge the equity gaps. Again, like I mentioned earlier, that if you are not on grade level for reading and math by the third grade, when you get to eighth grade, you will be underemployed for the rest of your life. And unfortunately, in cities and communities like the one that I come from, that's a real reality. So when we have early intervention, like we've been able to capture here in our relationship, really we're setting our kids to be successful, not just for tomorrow, but forever. And then the last thing is building habits for success. Um, when in the position that we put them in, they're seeing students achieve in their own right, so they can aspire to be just like the next student that they see. We can go to the next slide. So then we have to address virtual tutoring, and really that's the bulk of what I'm going to be talking about, because we know post-COVID things change drastically. In fact, being in a nonprofit childcare organization, our rules and regulations just to have people in the building are very strict, as they should be. So virtual tutoring opened up a door to one where we can teach technology, but two, we can also make it accessible. We can make it accessible for our kids, but we can also make it accessible for those who would like to volunteer. So providing virtual tutoring as an option has just resulted in so much. Sometimes we have people who live 40, 50, an hour, 2.5 hours away that really have the passion, but don't really have the access of the commute or reliable transportation. So what we've been able to do is set up a Zoom link, open it up, share the whiteboard, and really get into the homework, really get into reading, really get into math equations, and have our kids be set up for success. Again, this is about access. The members of our Boys and Girls Club come from various backgrounds. And sometimes, here we we like to be the vehicle to eliminate any barriers that could potentially be. So if it's a technology barrier, we're going to eliminate that by providing high tech Apple computers, Apple tablets, Apple laptops to our students. If it's providing headphones, um, if it's providing adults who care, we want to remove whatever barriers in the way so we can narrow that gap of the kids in the city and the kids throughout the world who aren't on level for reading. It also provides us an opportunity to be flexible with our times. Now, being an after-school program, we primarily operate between the hours of 3 and 7. But with that, we know folks have sports or they have careers. So that flexibility of being able to just jump on a computer link is really essential in how we're able to make it work and map out how we do our 6 to 8 week programming of tutoring. And then, my favorite part, which I benefited from in my life, is the one-on-one attention that our kids are getting. We're able to provide that with them in our after school program. But again, we have a lot of priorities that we are trying to achieve. So tutoring isn't necessarily one of the things that we can hyperly focus with our day-to-day staff. But when we have partnership, when we have relationships and folks who volunteer, they can take that load off of us and we can reach our children more intentionally. Um, and then, we are in the age of technology. And even with AI growing rampantly, we want to prepare our kids for the world of today. So even as we use technology and the way that we use it currently, we are always looking at how to integrate it and how to make it make sense to help our program grow and help our members reach the achievement successes that we desire. And then it's easier to track. Again, you can record, you can share, you can Google accessibly. And it it really it really just, if I can capture it in one sentence, it eliminated so many gaps. When I was a kid, um, growing up in the city of Newark, and when I was in public school, there was a select group of kids that got the experience that I got to be tutored, to be mentored. But this right here just allows greater access and greater reach for all of our members. We serve about 800 youth in the city of Newark during our after school program. And in the summer, we serve about 325. So we're talking about close to 1,100 kids throughout the year of providing services. Opportunities like virtual tutoring allows us to expand our reach. It allows us to get more kids, get more parents involved, but also get more volunteers, because we have an organization that is hugely driven by our volunteers, like Anjay and his family. And again, that's huge for us as a community serving organization. You can go to the next slide. So what it really comes down to is volunteerism, partnerships. That's what really drives the success of any tutoring program. It's when we identify a problem. In our case, our problem is that 2/3 of the kids in the city of Newark aren't on level at third grade for reading. 83% aren't on grade level for math, and 93% of fifth graders aren't on grade level for science. Identify that problem. Okay, who can we work with to provide solutions for this problem? In our case, again, I think he was 13 at the time that we first met. A 13-year-old comes in your face and say, hey, I want to tutor some kids in your city. Okay, my job as the program director isn't to get in the way of that. It's to make it work. It's to listen to his goals and aspirations and say, the same way that I would treat the kids that I work with every day, treat him like that. But let's make this work. Let's figure out what we need to do to make this successful. Let me hear your goals and see what we can do. And then my job becomes every single day, I need to figure out how, when he calls me ready and eager with ideas, how I can make time out of my day, make time out of our schedule so he can achieve his results while at the same time I can achieve mine. And that's where, we're Boys and Girls Club, so we're hand in hands. So it's always us coming together to achieve the goal. Because community is power, right? When we come together for one thing, and I don't know how many of you in attendance are part of sports teams or have done anything that you've had to come together with people with different backgrounds and different everything. You are stronger together. And that's what drives our success. Um, it also allows our kids access to a larger network. Again, Anjay goes to Del Barton. I have some Del Barton friends. That's an extensive network of folks. We're providing access to some of our kids to potentially be on track to one day aspire to go there, to one day aspire to apply there. Now, that might not be their interest, but again, your network becomes your net worth in the end. And this is what we're providing our members with as well. An opportunity to not only learn to get better, but to realize that when you meet people, when you grow your knowing of people and people who know you, you in turn will be success. Because again, like I've been mentioning, the underemployment aspect is also who they have access to know. And having a virtual tutor allows you to build a relationship with an individual who was never in your sphere. And I've been able to capitalize that in my life. Uh, the mentor that took me on when I was and sponsored me to go to private school when I was in middle school, solely off of how I presented myself, how I was diligent in my studies, and how I just wanted more. And the ironic part is that mentor was only my mentor for 2 weeks. He wasn't even my main mentor, but it's just having access to folks like that in your lives. And now I'm in control of that because, again, I'm in the position where I'm bridging. It's funny, I have a bridge behind me, but it's building a bridge of people coming together. Um, and then we're able to share resources. Again, everybody putting their nugget in the box to achieve that goal. And then my favorite aspect of this relationship with this young man is really, he blows me away every time. I've introduced him to some of my friends, he's blown them away. It's the compassion piece. When you find people who are compassionate, no matter what their age is, the goal will always be accomplished. And what we've been able to accomplish here with, in my time, with the last two cohorts is students who didn't show interest in doing homework or show interest in wanting to read or read aloud, and having a confidence develop over 2 years to, again, kids have, and I don't know if they see him as like in their age group or just see him a little bit more mature because he is mature for his age, but they light up when they see him more than they see me. Like, I know they see me every day, but I get jealous sometimes. And then, like I said, it's about real world exposure. Um, I know the tracks of so many of the alumni from Del Barton. They go off to do exceeding things in this world. And again, giving kids access to those folks is equally as important. But again, it's equally as important for those folks to come to a community like Newark, invest in the youth in the city, and also do it with no expectation other than the gratification that they're helping somebody who needs the help. And when the schools come together, we have access to the schools. When myself in the position that I'm in as program director, when partners like Anjay, his family come in, what we're able to achieve, someone put it like this when we're talking about children of this generation, is that they're not the future, they're the right now. So if we don't come together collectively and take care of the right now, then we are setting ourselves up and them the students up for failure. And shame on us if we don't do nothing in this moment right now to help the next generation, especially when we've had access to so much. And as technology continues to grow, if we don't stay attached to the now, in the end, we hurt ourselves. So that's why the most important aspect of any tutoring relationship with an organization is the volunteerism and the partnership. If you don't have a recipe that sees a problem, sees the solution, but also is willing to build a relationship with the solution, then you're not really doing anything that is actually proactive. Um, so again, I send claps to Anjay as he is going to do some amazing things in this world, but he's also humble. And I think that's what I appreciate as well. Very humble young man, um, very compassionate, very caring. His parents has done an exceptional job. And my job in our relationship is to make sure that I'm doing everything in my ability while I can to make sure that he achieves the outcomes that he wants as he continues to help students in a community that he isn't even from, right? That family has some Newark roots, but ultimately, he doesn't have to be in the city of Newark. He doesn't have to be in Essex County or anything like that. But he's here, and as long as he's here, I will continue to be here to build our tutoring partnership and cohorts, but also just build community as well. So with that, my last slide, I am saying thank you, and we can open it up for discussions.
Well, first of all, Mr. Adet, that was an incredible presentation. I know you gave a lot of props to me, but really, I couldn't have done anything that I've accomplished without you. And trust me, the students really do. They really do love you at the Boys and Girls Club. I've noticed it myself, and you're a really motivated and engaging individual. And without you, without people like you, none of this could have happened. So thank you. Don't thank me. Thank you. Pat yourself on the
It's
back.
us together.
Yeah, of course. Mhm. So to start off with our first question by Mr. Kessler, um, he asks, are your students able to connect and feel mentored by their tutors even though it's virtual? Do you notice the major difference from in-person tutoring?
Yeah, so let me be fully clear. There's nothing that beats in person with all of us, right? That experience in itself, it just allows for more connection. But when you are intentional about who you're choosing to partner with, I think that's the important part. When you're intentional about people who want to do the work, like the students that we get from Del Barton who are looking forward to logging on and working out any kinks of any technological difficulties that we have, then you won't have to worry about if there's a connection because the connection will be there. So once you comb through who you're selecting, you won't really have to worry about that aspect of tutoring. The connection will be there, but it's about choosing the right people.
Whoops, I was unmuted. Mr. Frazier asked, what type of training do the student tutors receive? So, I can answer that for you because I get the tutors on my side. But if you have anything to add, feel free. Mr. Frazier, so since we recruit some of the tutors from elsewhere, we like to orient our tutors. We have a slideshow prepared in which we inform on basic tutoring etiquette, different tools like the whiteboard tool that I brought up in the case study, and just overall tutoring strategies. We'll go over that further on the next session on the 27th, spoken to by Dr. Durso. But Mr. Ade, if you have anything else to add.
Yeah, depending on the partnership that we have, we also provide general trainings that aligns with our mission and vision and how we do things as an organization, but also as a Boys and Girls Club network.
Perfect. And guys, feel free if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. I received the chat separately, and this person's question was, is virtual tutoring exclusive for students? You guys at the Boys and Girls Club maybe teach parents or adults virtually? Do you have any programs that focus on that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've expanded on, not necessarily when it comes to our virtual tutoring, is that we provide our families with access of like STEM classes and things like that. Sometimes that's virtual, but we are really huge on parent engagement. So we try to engage our parents with numerous aspects of what we do from a programmatic lens, and then where we have room to provide resources for our community, we open it up to them as well. Um, Sometimes it's minor fees, sometimes it's small, but we really try to do our part to build up the kids that we have and then expand into the community that we have. Also here at the Boys and Girls Club, we have a wellness department who oversees our trauma informed care aspect of our programming and what we do from a Boys and Girls Club perspective. So we incorporate families in a number of ways, family and communities in a number of ways.
That's great. That answers this person's question. Thank you. Cecilia also asked a question. What steps do you take when a member or a student is consistently missing virtual sessions or just not engaged? when being tutored?
I think that's an excellent question. I think what we do first is we have a process which we go through who needs tutoring. Once we identify who needs it, we have a direct conversation with those families to see if tutoring is a match for them. If the families commit and say that they would like the tutoring, we do ask them to commit to a decent amount of whatever the offerings are for that session. If families are not able to commit for whatever reason, sports, personal issues, whatever, we don't hold it against them, but we do move on to the next child with the most need.
Okay, does that answer your question, Cecilia? If it doesn't, just feel free to ask a follow-up. I also received another question.
Mhm.
This person asked, how does your program ensure that both tutors and students are comfortable during the virtual tutoring program?
One of the ways that we do that, one is that the first session really should be a get to know you. And that's how we operate as organization, where our first few weeks of programming is really us trying to get to know the kids and build that relationship. Once we do that, once we accomplish that get to know you, then we're able to really sustain a relationship. Um, it's all about sustainability and relationship building. I always tell my kids and my staff, you know, we're in this together. Your parent committed you to be here for the entire school year. I signed the job application that said I wanted to work here. So we have to make this relationship work together. So you're going to do your part, I'm going to do my part, but we're going to work together to build that relationship.
Okay. We had another question from Mr. Kessler and Cecilia again, but we can start with Mr. Kessler. He's asking, in your opinion, what is the best way for a virtual tutor to connect with students from your center? He
Mhm.
imagines that it can be scary or intimidating for a student to connect with a tutor when they first meet.
Yeah, so the first place is that the center has to have a reliable space for tutoring. It has to be a space. Um, in our building, we have a gym, we have a dance room, we have a pool, we have multiple classrooms, but we decided to utilize our STEM room as the place because it made sense, technology, the iPads and things like that. So the center has to first identify a place that makes sense for tutoring. Then once you do that, it will be easier for whoever the tutor is to build their individual relationships with the students that they will be working with. And then you maintain your presence in that space or a staff's presence in that space. As long as they have a familiar space, a familiar face in that space, then it won't get too uncomfortable. And that familiar face is just monitoring, making sure everybody is comfortable.
Okay, great answer there. Cecilia also asked what specific virtual platforms, for example, Zoom, Google Meet, or Khan Academy, are used during the tutoring sessions, and how do you decide on which one to use?
Mhm. It's based on just the relationship and understanding. For us, we use Zoom, but we have used other platforms. We have used other virtual tutoring companies that have come with their own platforms, and we just integrated in that. But it's really what it really comes down to is what's the most easiest way for the kids to navigate. Zoom is very easy. Especially with whiteboard and things like that. So I lean in the direction of Zoom. And then if we're working with a partner that has a similar or other platform that they use, then we teach our members whatever we need to teach them so they can be acquainted and comfortable with that platform.
Okay, got it. Another question that I received is which academic subject is most covered during these sessions? For example, math, you brought up English earlier in your presentation.
So it's really based on the needs of the child and also the understanding of the relationship that we have with the partner. So again, we've targeted just literacy a few years ago. So all of our members were just doing ELA um, and reading comprehension. Sometimes tutoring has a focus on homework. So you have diverse tutors who are just helping problem solve with whatever are the hardest subjects for our members. But it depends on the child and the need and the understanding of the relationship when you go into it.
Okay. And I believe I'll ask this question for you, Mr. Felly, but he asked this question to me last session, and I thought that you might also have a valuable opinion on it. He asked, what, in your opinion, how would you start a virtual tutoring program if you have limited resources?
If you have limited resources, it
Yeah,
depends on the
such
limit
as
one.
a lack of, and Mr. Fell, you can clarify if you'd like, but I believe you said a lack of technology, maybe um, not a large amount of computers that a multitude of students can use, um, maybe spotty internet, things like
Mhm.
that.
I think the things that you can uh, work through, you build partnership and community. That's the number one thing. So where you might not have state-of-the-art technology, maybe you go find a partner that's willing to partner with you and donate tablets or give you a discounted rate. Again, we here at the Boys and Girls Club, we are backed by the brand of the national organization, but also the commitment that this organization has had over the last 85 years, which gives us some flexibility in the relationships that we're able to build. But also, when there's a need, there's also an axe. So don't be afraid to go advocate for what you need, if it's technology, if it's internet and those things. But also don't let those things hurdle you or make you feel that you are crippled. The things that you can accomplish, you still should. So if it's two computers that you have and you need three, figure out the appropriate amount of kids that can work on each computer. Um, we've tried a numerous ways of things here. We've had four kids on one tablet with the same tutor. We've tried it all. So sometimes those things will work just so you can get it off the ground and just build and have that growth and achievement. And sometimes that trumps the short sight of what don't I have in this moment.
Yes, I think that answers your question, Mr. Felly. Feel free to ask any follow-up in the chat. But he runs a refugee camp in Malawi. So
Oh, nice.
um, again, if Mr. Felly, if you want to reach out to me or Mr. Ade about anything, um, I can give you my contact at least, and I'm sure Mr. Ade is willing to help as well. But to move on, I received another question. Can you describe the onboarding process? Actually, we already answered that. Uh, this person just asked another question. How do you deal with certain scenarios when a tutor does not match or work well with a student? Um, do you do something to try to match the tutors with the student in the beginning of the program?
Yeah, so sometimes it's like a Russian roulette sometimes of who you get as a tutor, their level of engagement and connection with the student or member that they will serve. But you also just have to be patient. I think so. I'm so huge on relationship building just in general. And I think every aspect of what we do is based on that that sight of how well can I build this relationship? How can I cultivate this relationship? So you have to find tutors that match that thought process. If they're going into it because again, not all of them are volunteers. Sometimes you may be paying tutors to do it or whatever the case. Some of them aren't great. So you just move on. And if you have a great relationship with your partner, you will be able to identify, hey, this isn't working out. I think we need to switch it up. Is there room or do you have flexibilities with the tutors? But you also want to highlight the tutors who are really successful as well.
Okay, this answered this person's question. And everyone, I just also want to put this out there. On the 27th, we have a psychologist, Dr. Durso, again, who will hold the next session, and he will go into a ton of depth on this specific topic. So if this interests you, feel free to, again, join the 27th. We've received another question. What changes or additions would you like to make to the virtual tutoring program in the next 6 to 12 months to improve effectiveness or excuse me, expand reach?
I think that's where we are of constantly tweaking the bug fixes, but looking to expand. How do we get more volunteers? How do we get more buy-in? That way we can reach more kids. So I look at it from that perspective of how do we grow this thing? How do we scale this thing up? If we start with five, the next session should start with 10. And then how do we serve 20 and 50 and 100 kids at a time? So it's more about what's the most realistic way to scale this up? Is it getting more volunteers? Is it getting more technology? What do we need to do to take this to the next level? And then have checkpoints up until that point to really understand where you are and assess.
Okay. And a question from another question in the chat. Do you work with local schools to find students or tutors who need tutoring, or to ensure that your tutors teach what will align with school curricula?
I think that's an excellent question. Our organization has a partnership with schools, charter schools within the city, and they are bused to our main facility. We operate 5 school-based sites. Um, Everything that we do, we generally want it to align with them, but we also want it to be after school. And one of the things that I always go back and forth with as I talk to teachers and things like that is that sometimes they have the expectation of our professionals to be teachers or to do teacher-like things when really we're just trying to take core human principles and skills and make it as fun as possible and as memorable as possible. Because you got to remember, school is 8 hours a day, and we're getting them for 2 to 3. That's a really long time away from home. And if we drill it to be more aligned with the school, as far as the way that we instruct or the way that we want our tutors to interact, then we will ultimately overwhelm the kids that we serve and do a disservice to them. So, as much as we can align with the core of what they're learning, we try to do it in a way that's different than what the schools are doing. Because to a certain degree, it's not that effective because they're there all day.
Okay, another similar question. Uh, do you communicate with members or teachers from schools, and does this directly align support through the program, through each tutoring program?
Yeah, so we have a direct relationship in our schools. We have a liaison that we communicate with. So when we are looking to identify schools, identify members who would need tutoring, they're able to give us the data um, in real time to say this kid is at this grade level. And then what we're able to come back and do and say they participated in our tutoring program. Where are they now? And then we can cross-reference that growth and see where it is. But also, what's really important that we do is have that relationship with families because we're in the business of serving the families. So we highlight and acknowledge that a little bit more than we do with the schools because we know sometimes parents advocate for their kids a little bit better than institutions. So we are clear when we do tutoring, we are clear when we do programming, in asking parents what they need, what they would like to get out of the program, and then try to um, build and mold our program around the needs of our parents and of our members.
And a follow-up question from the same person. Does it specifically go through teachers at the Boys and Girls Club, and how are they involved with the program?
So we don't necessarily work directly with teachers. What we do when we're in schools is build relationship with the teachers, but we work with the director of operations and the vice principals in the school when it comes to any data that we want, or if we're trying to see where the kids are or where they should be. We're working with the administrators directly, and the teachers more secondhand. Um, and that's the nature of our relationship.
And we have another question in the chat. How long has your virtual tutoring program been running? Have you published about any benefits or outcomes or plan to in the future?
Yes. So since I've been here, it's 2025, I would say. We've been doing virtual tutoring since 2023. We had a larger partner in which we provided tutoring for 120 kids. Myself and AJ have been working together over the last 2 years, 24 and now 25. And we've had the same group of about 5 to 10 kids that have come through that initiative. And he and I are working on ways to develop pre and post tests to better track that. But in our relationship with the previous virtual tutor, 90% of our kids increase reading scores from the beginning of the year to the end of the year when they took their final test. We're just waiting on the partner has been a little slow in sharing that in a way that we can publish it. But we always tend to share our success outcomes on our website and on our platforms.
Okay, another question in the chat. What do you think that the main differences are between virtual tutoring and in-person tutoring, and how would you compare the effectiveness of each?
I think with in-person tutoring, the tutor can be more in command of a space. It's just like anything online. You got to make sure the camera is on. You got to make sure that you have attention getters. You're maintaining that aspect. That's a little bit harder virtually than in person. But I think again, it just comes with how talented or how caring the individual is on the camera.
Okay, that's great. And I'm not seeing any immediate questions right now. I'll give everyone on this call about 30 more seconds to think of a question, and if not, then and we can wrap it up. And yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to put in the chat. Okay, so I'm seeing no more questions. Okay, so I think that we've answered them all. So let's wrap it up now. First of all, thank you, Mr. Ade. You did a fantastic job today. I mean, I can speak for myself. I know I learned a ton. Even now, I think that you have a lot to say, and you really introduced this topic on your perspective, at least, very well, in my
Thank you.
opinion. And based off of looking at the chat, seems like everyone else agrees with that as well. So I think you did a fantastic job. Just to quickly wrap it up again, on the 27th, Dr. Durso will talk about the learning deficit gaps and the psychology of student motivation. Again, we had a question earlier about this, specifically how to connect with certain and excuse me, how to connect with varying personalities as a tutor. We'll talk about that on the 27th, but thank you all for joining. Hopefully you got something out of it. And I know I did. But again, thank you. Before you all leave, I do have a form that I would like you all to fill out if you'd like, of course. I'm putting it in right now. So feel free to fill that out. It'll just give us feedback on how this session went and give us more feedback on how we can critique and make it better in the future. But again, thank you all for joining. The next session will be great, and thank you, Mr. Ade, for this didactic and the Q&A. It means a ton. All right, you guys are. Thank you all for joining.